Perfect.
Excellent. So we are live. Everyone, welcome to the Committee on Taxation. We're going to start with introductions as we normally do. We'll start with Senator Pouliot.
Morning, Senator Matt Pouliot, represent Senate District 15.
And is Representative Bickford with us? I don't
Nope.
see him. Okay. Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning. I'm Mickey Carmichael. I represent House District 137, which is Hancock, Washington, Penobscot counties.
And I don't see Representative Collins. Representative Gramlich.
Good morning, Senator. Good morning, everybody. My name is Lori Gramlich, and I represent House District 13, soon to be House District 131, which is the lovely seaside community of Old Orchard Beach.
And Representative Hanley.
Yes, good morning. I'm Jeff Hanley. I represent District 87, which are the towns of Pittston, Alna, Wiscasset, and Randolph.
And Representative Stetkis.
Good morning, all. I am Joel Stetkis. I serve the great people of District 105, which are the towns of Canaan, Palmyra, St. Albans, Heartland, Ripley, and Cambridge.
Excellent. And Representative Matlack.
Good morning. I'm Ann Matlack. I represent the communities of House District 92, which includes Cushing, Thomaston, South Thomaston, St. George, Matinicus, Cree Haven, and the Muscle Ridge Islands.
And Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, all. My name's Joe Perry. I represent part of Bangor and part of Orono in the main house.
I know Representative Sachs is in the Energy Committee and not able to be with us this morning. We haven't heard from Representative Collins, Senator Libby. Got a couple other members that aren't with us that may join us this morning. We also have with us Lena Braun, who's our committee clerk, as well as Julie Jones, our committee analyst. Apologize for slight delay getting started. Some technical issues here that we think we got resolved now. Anything from you, Representative Terry, before we start?
I'll just introduce myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's fine. I'm Mo Terry. I represent District 26, the west side of Gorham, and I serve as House Chair. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for waiting through us through the technical difficulties. We're still trying to get ourselves switched up to a little bit of a hybrid model here.
All right. I should introduce myself as well. I'm Senator Ben Shipman, serve as Senate Chair of the committee and represent Senate District 27, which is part of the city of Portland. So with that, we will now open up the public hearing on LD 1986. This is an act to exempt permanently disabled veterans from payment of property tax, sponsored by Representative Roach. Is Representative Roach with us?
Looks like he's jumping on.
Great. Welcome, Representative Roach.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Senator Chipman and Representative Terry, and the members of the Taxation Committee. I appreciate this time that you set aside for me to present my bill. When I decided to run for House a couple of years ago, one of the things I really want to make sure is that we take care of our veterans. I think my passion comes from the deep regret of being a lazy 18-year-old who probably should have joined the Army or some kind of branch of service and was too lazy and stupid to do so. And then later on in life, regretting that that opportunity had passed me by. And I've pretty much put into my life now a way to help them out, find ways to help them out. And this came across late in the summer, early fall to me, and I jumped at the chance to sponsor this bill. I think this bill will provide necessary assistance to a group of individuals who have served our country with the great pride, and in doing so have become 100% disabled. It seems funny to me sometimes that we fail our most important people, and these are our veterans. You know, they start their careers almost below the poverty line in what they make in money, and they work their ways up the ladder here, and then, you know, sometimes unfortunately they become disabled in some way, and even the VA hospitals are tough for them to navigate. Every step of the way, it seems to be some roadblocks to these people that are doing, you know, the work that we need them to do. I think we have an opportunity here, and without really being an extremely expensive bill, that's hard to say. 3.5 million to me is very expensive. That's the estimate. It would be a lot of money to me, but in the grand scheme of things, to help out about 2,700 vets who right now are struggling because of, you know, your property evaluations going up, all these things going on and their aid not meeting the cost of living expenses and things like this. I think we're, in our grand scheme of things, we're doing a good job of trying to find affordable housing, help the homeless in our state. These vets need our help. And that's the whole reason I really am strongly behind LD 1986. And I thank you, and I welcome any questions. I didn't get into great detail because I know there's a couple of people waiting to testify that have more knowledge of how it works, but I thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Representative Roach. Any questions from members of the committee? Representative Gramlich.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Representative Roach. I guess I'm just curious, and perhaps there will be others behind you, but I'm just wondering about a little bit more specificity on what the intent is. And maybe I missed it during your testimony, but I'm just kind of curious. And then with the fiscal note, do you know whether or not that there's an opportunity for any kind of a federal match?
I don't know about the federal match. The estimate is that there's about 2,700 in Maine disabled, 100% disabled vets. Estimate it in property tax value it would cost around 2,700 per 2,500, excuse me, per disabled vet that owns a home. It would only affect those who obviously own a home in Maine. I don't, can you repeat the first part? I'm sorry. I just, because I was going through detail, sorry.
No, I think you've actually, thank you, Representative. I think you actually answered. I was just trying to wrap my brain around some of the specifics about what the intent of the proposed legislation would do. So it's very specific for veterans who are property owners in the state of Maine. Did I get that accurately?
Property owners 100% disabled, and yeah, property owners, that would be right.
Okay, that was helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from members of the committee? Representative Matlack.
Thank you very much, sir, and welcome, Representative Roach.
Thank you.
Will this be like a homestead exemption that goes straight to their municipal property tax bills? Is this a rebate to the individual? How will this be handled? Do you know?
The way I understood it was, and is that we would reimburse the town at 75%, and the town would come up with 25% of this plan in this plan. That's the way I had originally presented. I think that's the way I hope it goes through. If that's what you mean, it would not take place of the homestead exemption in any way, or
right.
But it'd be similar to that, Bill.
Okay. Okay, and the municipalities would be responsible for
We could
vetting the vets?
Yes, yes. It would be the municipalities who vet the vets, so to speak. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Representative Terry, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I think I'm gonna hold off on those particular questions as Representative Matlack just had about the methods and mechanics of it. But Representative Roach, first of all, thank you for bringing this to us. And second of all, do you know what the difference is? And I apologize that I don't. I wish I did. What the difference between 100% disabled, 90% disabled, 80% disabled? Because I know that there are a lot of programs for folks on the percentage of disability. It seems on a sliding scale sort of a thing. Do you know a little bit more about that?
So, not being in the military, I did meet yesterday with, I have a good friend was the commander of SEAL Team 6, and we talked a lot about this bill. He lives here in Wells now, and he's a good resource for me on these things. Mm-hmm. And basically, the way I understood it, and I'm hoping I have this right, and there's a couple of vets, I think, in waiting to speak, or at least one, that the idea is when you leave the military, you meet with these doctors at the VA, and they kind of determine your percentage. And that, the way I understood it, that percentage really doesn't change over the time. So they determine each one, and there's a real scale, almost like a picture like of
Yeah.
my shoulder hurts, my knee, this, and then there is the mental piece of it also, which we found more lately. And then they determine that you get that determination of 90%, 100, so that's one of the things. Sorry, I'm in school and all of a sudden an announcement had to start. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Thanks. I'll press a couple other people on that one too. Thanks very much.
We have another question from Representative Gramlich.
Thank you for your indulgence, Senator. Representative Roach, just to piggyback on Representative Terry's question, my understanding, I've done a little bit of work in this arena in terms of behavioral health for veterans. And I know that's a calculus that's taken into consideration in terms of how one is identified to be disabled. And further, and I guess I'm going to make a request session if we don't get it from other folks providing testimony, and you may know the answer to this, Representative Roach, but my understanding is that that 100% disability, as you said, it's a calculus that occurs. And once that threshold is identified and satisfied, folks maintain that. And even for veterans who are at 90% or even 80% disability, their benefits are drastically reduced as a result of that identification. So I don't know if you want to lend anything to that, because I want to put this in the form of a question. And if not, we maybe can get some additional information for the work session, because this is really critically important. Don't you agree?
I'm getting used to that. It's tough. I'm in the education committee and I always forget to do it just like you did. So you're teaching me a little something. I do agree. I think, I guess I would get more into my philosophical talk of, I don't really agree with how that all works with the military piece, but I do agree. I do agree with what you said.
Representative Hanley.
Yes, thank you, Senator. And thank you, Representative, for bringing this bill forward. It reimburses the localities affected by 50%. I kind of look at it as an unfunded mandate. Would you be opposed to 100% reimbursement by the state, this bill?
No, I'd be happy with that. To be honest with you.
Thank you. That's the only question I have.
Any additional questions from members of the committee for Representative Roach? Seeing none, thank you for being with us, Representative, and presenting the bill. Look forward to working with you on it.
Can I just ask a technical question? Because this is the first time I've ever done this. So
Sure.
Am I should I stay here, or because I'm in education and we're in the middle of something there, but I certainly can stay here. I didn't know what the procedure is. I apologize.
It's totally up to you. If you have to run because you have another committee you need to be in, that's totally fine. If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think there's 3 or 4 people signed up to speak. So, if you want to stay, you're welcome to, but
I will.
that's
All right,
totally up
thank
to
you. I appreciate it.
So we'll now take testimony from those in favor of the bill. And we will start with Alva O'Donnell from Belgrade. Is Alva O'Donnell with us? How about Patrick Eisenhart?
I just moved him. He should be in a minute.
Great. Welcome, Mr. Eisenhart. Are you with us, Mr. Eisenhart? We can't hear you or see you. I don't know if you need to unmute your sound and start your video. Looks like he just sent a note in the chat saying he's on the phone and can provide via the phone. So is there someone with us by phone that we can allow in? Maybe that's him.
Yeah. Is it the 5471 number? Yeah, that's he can speak now, I think.
Good morning. Can you hear us?
We
Yes,
can hear
we
you.
can.
Welcome, Mr. Eisenhart.
Thank you. Yes. This is Alva Donnell from Belgrade. Can you
Alva
hear
O'Donnell.
okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
Elva,
it's John
Elva,
now.
yeah, welcome, Elva O'Donnell. Go ahead and offer your testimony to the committee.
Yes, Senator Chapman, Representative Terry, and members of the Taxation Committee, I thank you for the opportunity to be here before you. I'm Elva Donnell. I'm past commander of the American Legion Post 2, Augusta, Maine, and I'm currently commander for the Kennebec County Veterans Honor Guard. I support LD 1986, an act to exempt permanently disabled veterans from payment of property tax. I'm a Vietnam era veteran. I am 100% disabled. I receive compensation from the VA system and Social Security SSI. I'm on a fixed income. Also, I believe that getting this bill passed would be very helpful for a lot of disabled veterans in the state of Maine that makes less than myself. Rest assured that we veterans live check to check each month. I am a cancer survivor, and to use all my retirement funds to survive that crisis. So there's no income except for the VA system. Veterans like myself depend on a lot of the VA. If this bill passes, it will help us veterans use the extra funds to pay utilities and to survive these hard times. For these reasons, I respectfully ask this committee to vote ought to pass on LD 1980.
Great. Well, thank you for that testimony, Mr. Donnell. Any
So
questions?
could I add something to that?
Sure.
Okay, 90% is the max for a disabled veteran. To get the 100% disabled, you have to receive the compensation, which you're not able to work. So it's like an employment addition. In the max with the 6% that we had just got January 1st is around $3,300 a month. So that's how it works. So 90% you can still work, but if you draw the compensation, you have to be permanently disabled, and I fall in that category.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the answer to that. That's very helpful.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Is there any questions from members of the committee for Mr. Donnell? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony and being with us today. We appreciate it. We'll now hear from Patrick Eisenhart, speaking in favor of LD 1986. Welcome, Mr. Eisenhart. I think you're on mute, Mr. Eisenhart. You would need to unmute your computer. You're still on mute. We can't hear you. You've got to unmute your computer.
It's like you're unmuting your Zoom screen, actually. So on the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's the little mic. If you click on that little mic, the little red arrow should lift off of it and you should be able to speak through your computer.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can, yeah.
I'm sorry for the delay. I know you've all got things to do other than talk to us. I'm just, we're a bit technically deficient here this morning.
No problem.
Also, I'm going to be forwarding to you, it couldn't be here, but the American Legion Department of Maine adjutant has prepared some testimony here, which I'll forward to you individually. My name, as you probably already know, is Patrick Eisenhart. I've spent 25 years in the Coast Guard and its reserve forces. I served in the parachute infantry as a jump master and fire team leader. It has been my honor to have served on active duty during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Vietnam, and the first Gulf War. I'm here today to ask that you approve LD 1986, the bill to exempt property taxes from homes owned by veterans who have sacrificed life and limb to protect our country. They are men and women of Maine rated by the VA as 100% service-connected, permanently disabled. The ability of their fixed pension is not keeping pace with historical levels of inflation and rising property. If you own a home, no doubt you have become painfully aware that Maine since 2010 has increased property taxes for the most part in double digits and as much as triple digit in some areas. It's fascinating to see the growth rate over the past several years. As many of you probably already know, the mill rate is only one of the equations in determining how much you pay in property taxes. The second variable, of course, is your property valuation. Assessments are bound to go up as demand has continued to drive up the values of Maine single-family existing homes from a median of 197,000 in 2017 to today's median value of 310,000, a 24% increase just since June of 2020. For the rolling quarter from April through June 30th of this year, Washington County saw the steepest increase in the number of units sold at 79.5%. That was followed by Waldo County at 71% and Hancock at 52%. Two main metro areas hit the top 20 metros in emergency housing markets in the latest Wall Street Journal Realty.com index. Portland, South Portland ranked number 6 and Bangor ranked number 9. These rises in mill rates and property valuations already taken a financial toll on disabled military veterans, the percentage of which ranks third in the nation, with 25,000 veterans receiving any kind of VA disability. LD 96 addresses that portion, or 13% of those disabled veterans that are rated 100% permanently disabled, service-connected disabled, with a median age of 69. The majority of veterans are World War II, Vietnam, and Korea veterans. And so what we're talking about today is an elderly population. And of the 33,429 100% disabled, only 79.6 or 2,726 own their own homes. Thus, the total cost to Maine to follow the lead of other states such as Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, and others in honoring the sacrifices made by these 2,726 disabled veterans is an estimated annual cost of $2,585 each. That's, in some places the taxes are less, some places they're higher, but that's the median cost for each. With the state presently awash with new federal and state funding, the time seems right to establish an interest-bearing trust to fund veterans rated by the VA as 100% service-connected, permanently disabled, to cover the majority of the remaining time on Earth. The largest contingent of disabled veterans in Maine, as I mentioned, are older veterans. Age and disability make it impossible for them to work themselves out of their ever-increasing hardship. For many disabled veterans, every day is a rainy day, physically, mentally, and economically. According to a 2018 study from the VA, Maine veteran suicides found 72% were vets in the age group of 55 and older. Firearms were used in 76% of the suicides. The rate of suicide was 40.7 per 100,000 when compared to the overall Maine state rate of 35.9. The Northeast region rate of 14.9 and the national rate of 18.9 per 100,000 residents. Over half of the Maine disabled live in rural counties east and west of North Bangor. The median age, as I mentioned before, is 69. Recent CDC, and with the pandemic, they've been particularly hard hit because of their age. And with the present, as I mentioned, with the state presently awash with new federal and state income, I mean, presently I understand there's something like 823 million that you folks have to decide how you're going to spend, including giving everybody a $500 check. But in all these conversations, I'm not hearing anything about disabled veterans. And what I'd like to see, if you pass this bill, is a trust set up while the money is available to fund a property tax exemption for the next few years, the years that these veterans have left on Earth. So I'm going to also be forwarding, as I mentioned, some testimony from the Department of the American Legion. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak and to hear my testimony. I'll take questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eisenhart. Question from Representative Stutkis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Eisenhart, for your testimony. From one veteran to another, I thank you very much for coming and giving us your thoughts on this. You've obviously done a ton of homework, and you already answered one of my questions in your testimony, where you had talked about over half of these 2,700 veterans live in rural communities. So one of my concerns is, from a rural community, I live in Somerset County, one of the poorest in the state, is the cost of this, obviously. So very simple question would be, would you support an amendment to this bill that would actually provide 100% reimbursement to these communities from the state to pay for these property tax exemptions? I greatly feel that if we don't make this type of change, it's going to be quite the burden on towns and counties like mine. And I think we would be better suited to be able to do 100% reimbursement to make sure that we're not going to hurt the smaller communities where a lot of our veterans live.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. The answer, what I would like to see is the least burden on local towns and city budgets. And the other thing is, in terms of long-term commitment, this isn't a long-term commitment because most of these guys, as I have said, our median age is 69. They're not going to be around much longer, and I fall in that category, unfortunately. But right now, with the amount of money that's available, federal and state, what I would really like to see would be a trust set up. That it would be, we have the money now, we're looking for a place to spend it, to make that investment now, that there would be a trust fund to fund this for, say, the next 10, 15 years, so that it wouldn't be a reoccurring expense to the state, and also it wouldn't be a burden on towns and cities. But yes, I would be in favor of doing as you say, or recommending, but I would love to see us do this on a one-shot deal and get it over with, and so that it wouldn't be a reoccurring expense and it wouldn't be a burden on towns and cities.
Any additional questions from members of the committee? Representative Terry.
I'm not actually sure if this is a question for Mr. Eisenhart, but thank you very much for your testimony and for your letters to us as well. It's always good to hear your perspective on things. So maybe this is for the work session, but it looks like this is for seniors who are who become disabled during active duty. But I'm not exactly sure how to say this. It seems like it would take care of folks right now who are in financial straits at the moment, but would it not also go into the future once veterans of perhaps what we just ended in Afghanistan, would that not help them when they turn 62? I think we maybe lost your audio there, Mr. Eisenhart.
Can you hear us, Mr. Eisenhart?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes,
we can.
yes.
Okay. The numbers that I'm put out there are not just elderly people. It would include 100% service-connected Gulf War veteran. But that population, in comparison to the people that are in the large majority of people that fall in this category are elderly.
Okay.
But a service-connected Gulf War veteran certainly would qualify.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony, Mr. Eisenhart. Appreciate you being with us today. We don't have anybody else signed up to speak in favor of the bill, and we don't have anybody signed up to speak in opposition to the bill. We have one person signed up to speak neither for nor against, Kate Dufour from Maine Municipal Association. Is Kate Dufour with us? Looks like we're bringing her in now. Go ahead, Kate Dufour. Welcome.
Thank you. Senator Chipman, Representative Terry, and members of the Tax Committee. My name is Kate Dufour. I'm here on behalf of the Maine Municipal Association to provide testimony neither for nor against LD 1986. As I stated in my testimony, most of what our concerns have been raised by the proponents of the bill, as well as many of the members of the Tax Committee. We support the concept in the bill, but the issue we have is when we provide exemptions and the state does not fully reimburse municipalities for that lost property tax revenue, there's a shift that occurs, and sometimes that shift occurs and is placed on other vulnerable individuals in our communities. So we would advocate for full reimbursement of this exemption, so that everybody at the local level at least is held is whole. So I thank you for your time and consideration, and would answer any questions you might have.
We have questions, I believe. Representative Carmichael first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Dufour. So if this was amended so that it was 100% reimbursed to the communities, then your organization wouldn't have any further problems with the bill?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Representative Terry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And hello, Mr. Dufour. It's nice to see you. It's been a long time.
It has been.
I also like the idea of reimbursing the towns 100%. Mr. Eisenhart said something that I mostly caught about the amount of folks that live in rural areas that are affected by this. Do you have any further information on that? Do you know if that's the case? If there's I'm also worried about rural communities losing some of their dollars. So
yeah, I don't have that data, but I would think the Veterans Administration might have that information.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you for being with us, Ms. Dufour. Good to see you today. We don't have anybody else signed to speak neither for nor against. We did get a note in the chat from Mr. Eisenhart that there was someone else who would like to speak with us by phone. I assume it's someone just wants to speak in favor of the bill, which we close testimony in that, but if there's no objection from members of the committee, would it be okay to hear from another person by phone that'd like to speak with the committee about the bill?
Absolutely.
Seeing head nods in favor. So Mr. Eisenhart, we're happy to hear from an additional person by phone if you are still with us.
Yes, I'd like to introduce a Vietnam veteran, combat veteran that served in the Riverine forces in Vietnam. And he's 100% service-connected disabled due to Agent Orange. His name is Jim Palmer.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Palmer. Welcome to the Committee on Taxation.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, hearing us. Anyway, I'm going through the difficulties that I shouldn't be going through. I took and paid for my house when I moved here from the money that I got from my other house. And I moved here because the cost of living was less. But now I'm taking and having a problem with, if you sell your house, you can't afford to buy another house here. So I'm going to have to take and give up everything I worked for all my life because of the fact that, the economy is just eating us up alive. The cost of living is just going out of, and the money that I had saved up is all gone from the house. When I took control of my house, I had a few dollars left, and that's gone now. So I'm just worried about how I'm going to exist for the rest of the time. I'm 100% service connected, disabled American veteran, and I was dosed with Agent Orange. Yeah. I'm having a hard time because I got a mild cognitive impairment. The Agent Orange I got sprayed with, but they denied it because at that time they weren't even taking the thing. Oh, we don't know nothing about Agent Orange. And that for a long time, they never would take and give you financial assistance for Agent Orange. Now, they finally took and found enough situations in my life that takes and shows that I was in all the right places at the right time. I did everything I should do, and yet we didn't get a settlement for that. All we got was what? I'm sorry. Yeah. Anyway, have a nice day is basically the statement. So anyway, I'm for this legislation. Like I say, I can go on, and I'm not going to because we got the point across. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for being with us. Any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, we appreciate your testimony today. Thank you for joining us. I think that concludes testimony on LD 1986. We don't have anybody else time to speak on this bill, so we'll close the public hearing on LD 1986. And we'll now open up the public hearing on LD 1987. This is an act to establish municipal cost components for unorganized territory services to be rendered in fiscal year 2022 to 2023. And this is being presented to us by Representative Terry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here my name is Mo Terry. I represent District 26, the west side of Gorham, and I'm here to present LD 1987. We are here to listen to and discuss the budget for the unorganized territory. And Nancy Bodine from the unorganized territory is here to tell us all about it. So I will not be able to answer any questions.
Right.
She will.
Thank you for your testimony. Just as a formality, any questions from members of the committee for the sponsor? Seeing none. Thank you for introducing the bill. We'll now hear from those speaking in favor of LD 1987. We have Nancy Bodine from the Fiscal Administrator of the Unorganized Territory Office of the State Auditor. Welcome, Ms. Bodine.
Good morning. Good morning. You can hear me and you can see me.
We can.
All right. Good morning, Senator Chipman, Representative Terry, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Taxation. My name is Nancy Bodine, and I serve as a fiscal administrator for the unorganized territory. I'm here today to testify in support of LD 1987, an act to establish the municipal cost components for the unorganized territory for fiscal year 23. This is legislation that is presented annually in compliance with Title 36, Chapter 115, the Unorganized Territory Educational and Services Tax. I'd like to start with a brief history, and this I'm reading from the testimony that I had submitted. The unorganized territory taxpayers receive municipal type services from state agencies and from the counties that their unorganized territory tax district is in. This was created by legislation in 1977. It established this tax district in order to coordinate, contract, and provide municipal services to the UT, because UTs really have no incorporated government that can be contracted with. So it was a way to be able to do that and then provide the services that they, as residents of the state of Maine and of the UT, should be provided. The majority of the unorganized territory is physically remote and rural and represents about 1/2 physically of the state of Maine land area. It is a challenge to provide these municipal type services. It's very much like the services that are provided by your town or municipality, except it's across over almost half of the state. And it's supports a population of roughly 9,000 residents and businesses. I did provide on page 6 of the testimony a map of the unorganized territory highlighted in blue, and it also highlights the 3 small elementary schools that reside in the UT and provide educational services. And again, the challenge is to balance the quality yet effectively provide services to these remote areas. The next piece I'd like to talk about is just the funding. I'm sure you're all aware of it, just to state how the funding briefly works. It is to provide these municipal services to the residents and the taxpayers. And what this LD contains are the actual budgets for the 6 state agencies and the 12 counties. And it's summarized in a way to just present, here's what it costs to provide those services. And these services are funded strictly from the unorganized territory assessed and collected property taxes. Nothing is funded through the general fund. The municipal services are really broken out into 4 types of budgets. 3 of them are what's considered part of the municipal cost component and is the total of what this legislation is requesting. And the 4 budgets are state agency services, county services. There's a level of county tax increment financing, and then the actual county taxes that the UT pays, very similar to what any town or municipality has to pay for county services. Overall, kind of bottom line on our request for funding, before the county taxes and the overlay, we're requesting approximately $27.6 million, which is slightly less than last year, about $100,000 less and 0.4% less than what was enacted last year. The next piece I'd like to go over is just an overview of the process chart, which is on page 2. And at the same time, I'll refer to the page 3 information that's listed by each one of the budget areas. And the process starts really with this action here, the initial request for the state agency and county services funding. Once we have that funding determined and finalized, and at the same time, Maine Revenue Service is working on assessing the properties, getting the valuation amounts. And then as we approach the end of the fiscal year, right around June, county budgets are final and the county tax is determined for the UT. From there, the Maine Revenue Service takes all of that information, similar to what your town would do, calculating your property tax is, here's your valuation, here's the spending, here's the mill rate. They turn around and create the bills for each individual property owner in the UT and taxpayer, and they send those out. They actually operate as a collection service to that. And once the funds are collected, they deposit it into the unorganized territory fund for distribution and payment of services. So on page 2, that kind of overview flow chart, it really is the left-hand side that I've just described. And in total, including county tax, we are looking at about $35.4 million, which is about $500,000 less than last year. The next piece, I'm going to move into that center column and just speak to each one of these budgets, and then off to the right is a little more detail of the spending items. And we did add a percentage of what it entails to these individual budgets. The first one being the state agencies. This year we're asking for $12.5 million, which represents of the total UT budget a little over a third. And that is slightly lower than what we had requested last year. Most of the reason for that is the agency budgets are flat from last year, but last year when the actual spending came in, it came in slightly less than what we had asked for. So we collected a little bit more in taxes, and we would turn around and give that back to the next year's funding process. So that's really why this is lower. Just to proceed over to the right of that, there are the 6 agencies that support services in the UT. First being education, and really kind of not a surprise that 85% of the agency funding is related to education. Again, very similar to a town budget. A little bit of information there. There's approximately estimated 813 students that will be provided services in fiscal 23. 122 of them would be elementary that would reside in the 3 schools that physically are in the unorganized territory. The rest of the students, almost 700, would be tuition to nearby town school systems and attend school in those towns. The EUT, or Education in the UT Department, actually coordinates all of the transportation for these students. So there's 813 students who are traveling basically over half of the state of Maine to go to school, and they're coordinating the bus service for that. And they have just under 20 buses that they coordinate these transportation services. Talked a little bit about trying to balance. This is just probably a good example of where we balance, where there may be a time when it may make sense for the UT to transport a town student because they're on the way, and then the town will reimburse the UT for that. So a lot of these kind of services, even county services, are handled that way just to figure out what's the most effective way to provide the service. So education is the largest out of state agencies. Second to that is Maine Revenue Service for all of the services that I described earlier, the whole taxation assessment process and billing. And that's about 8%. After that is land use planning, which similar to what a town provides, they provide the planning of property use, the zoning, and any building permits. After that are some smaller components of fiscal administrator, which is really this role, and it resides in the Office of State Audit and coordinates the budget that we're reviewing now, the actual external audit process. Also is the chairperson for the deorganization process for any town that considers that. The forest fire protection is out of Department of Agriculture, Conservation, Forestry. We usually plan about $150,000 a year. That can vary. For instance, last year it was $180,000 because the summer had been so dry at the beginning of the summer, and we did have some fires. This year it looks like we're going to come in much lower than that, depending on how we end the year. But what happens there if we've collected too much in taxes and it's cost less, again, that's a fund balance that we can use to support the funding for the next year. And then general assistance is a very small amount, but it is available in each UT, and each county that has a UT population that's coordinated by DHHS, and there's a contact, and it is available even through the DHHS general assistance. We'll direct them to where they need to go. So that's the state agency budgets. The underneath that in an oval is what's called the overlay. Anytime taxes are calculated with mill rates, generally there is a roundup that happens to 1/4 of a millionth. And because of that, because you don't want to really assess your taxes that here's exactly what's going to come in, you bump it up just slightly to make sure you cover all expenses. If it's too high, and again, we build up some kind of reserve or fund balance, we would give that back in the next funding request. Underneath that is the second largest portion of the budget, which is the actual county services that are provided by 10 of the counties. That's coming in at $11.9 million. It represents about 1/3 of the UT budget. It is about a little over $700,000 more than what we asked for last year. And on page 3, under section 2, it just gives a little bit more detail, the actual dollar increase and percentage increase for each of the areas of service that's provided. I've listed on the side, roads and bridges are 15% of the services they provide, and that's more of the day-to-day and the maintenance. What we're finding in general is a lot of people have moved into some of these rural areas and the traffic levels up. These are primarily dirt roads. There are paved roads, but they are requiring more work because the volume has increased. ATVs are now allowed on some of these roads. And then the next largest item in the service that the UT counties provide is snow removal, and that's almost a third of these services that they provide. And again, that can vary depending on what the weather is, et cetera. A comment there, and I think I mentioned it last year, is a lot of times these are so remote, and these are an older population providing the service. And we've had cases where they're just the only person that's even interested in doing this kind of work. So there is a concern about what's going to happen as people really stop providing the service, and what's it going to take to bring someone that maybe is a further distance to come in. And they're always on guard for that. We did add this line this year. Underneath that is solid waste is about 9% of that county service budget. And we added it because there have been renewal of contracts. And in the past, they've been fairly, maybe follow inflation, a little bit higher. This past year, it seems like we've had some renewals that have been significantly higher. A couple in Piscataquis County, in Frenchtown and Lily Bay townships. This also was an impact was we did have a deorganization that was official July 1st, 2021 in Oxford County from a Galloway plantation. And they do have a transfer station there. So they're still trying to assess what the impact is of taking that service on and do we maintain that. The next is fire protection and public safety. That's about 17% of the budget. We talked last year and again this year, we are having ambulance and EMS kind of services that we're renewing contracts, and those rates are just significantly increasing for all the reasons I'm sure you guys have been hearing is the wages, some of the mandates are impacting volunteers, and the training that's involved, which bumps up against the wages that possibly should be higher. Another impact that's happening in this service is in public safety and the actual deputy support out in these UT areas. We have relied somewhat, and the state police have integrated with the sheriff's department in providing services, but they also themselves are running into the same issue with staffing and resources. So, and consequently, if they can't support a certain number of calls and that falls to the county, then that's going to play out there. The last item that's listed here is one of the major spending groups is capital project reserves. The counties really work on kind of within a 3-year plan of major projects. And for the UT, it's really either paving the few paved roads that exist, but they are expensive, and any kind of bridge costs that may come up. And they really work towards identifying that may need to happen and get that into a 3-year plan versus turning it into a one-time, quite a large chunk of spending for the UT to cover. And there have been a couple of bridges that have impacted that. And on page 3, if you look at the dollar amounts that the increases are, they are look like about $1.1 million, when overall this has only increased under 800,000. Most of that's related to excise tax revenue. Last year, we talked about when COVID happened at the end of fiscal 21, there was kind of a relief measure in place for citizens across the state, and it impacted the UT, that you didn't have to pay your excise. It was kind of waived for 3 or 4 months. Well, consequently, the revenue didn't happen in 21, and it took a while for it to recover in 2022. So the counties were very conservative last year and actually reduced what they thought because they get the excise money and that reduces their service charge to the UT. This time around, they've really seen that come in and even come in a little bit higher. So they've recovered to what they didn't include last year. So that's offset the total increase of these, 5 major areas of 1.2 million by about 300,000. So this gets us to the 700 increase. The next one is the TIF portion, and that's really coordinated through Department of Economic and Community Development. And these are tax incentive financing projects that have been approved in the unorganized territory. And just to mention it here, it's in 5 counties. There are 5 programs, and they're primarily wind turbine, and are agreements between the developmental businesses and the counties. The last budget portion, which is not part of the legislation, but it is part of the total UT budget, is the county budget. And that has increased slightly from last year. And this is really the what the UT is paying for the jail system that supports each area in each county, the sheriff, district attorney, and probate, and is based on state valuation. And just another comment on that, because it is based on state valuation and is such a large section in some of these counties that are UT related, we are paying quite a percentage of the tax bill. So we would be paying for the jail system at that same rate. So maybe the population in the county, the UT population may only be 10%, yet we're paying 30% of the county tax bill for the jail support. But that is per statute how that is charged. So I think that is it. Before I go into trends and comments, just some of the detail and, kind of what each county goes through and that what we go through reviewing this. I do highlight on here the 3 counties that are have higher spending, but also have identified the areas that we've already discussed. If there's no questions there, I will go to the trends and comments section.
Looks like we have a question from Representative Terry.
Yes.
I figured I'd stop you for a sec, give you a chance to breathe.
Okay. Thank you.
But I have a couple of questions based on what we've talked about so far, what you've talked about so far. Number one is you had mentioned that there were issues with an elderly population, maybe phasing out doing some of these maintenance projects. Do you think going into the next budget cycle that some of those carryover dollars will be able to pay for that? Like if need be, would some of that work for you?
Oh, definitely. If we have any carryover, that's what we look to bring over. And also for each county also has kind of this fund balance that could occur. If they've, here's their estimate of their budget and they say it's going to be $1 million to provide the service, but let's just say there isn't much snow, there's less plowing, although those are contracts and sometimes that's a flat fee. If there is funds left over, that does move to a fund balance report. So they may themselves, when they submit their budget, reduce it by using some of that funding.
Okay.
A lot of times though, they'll use that to support their capital. But yes, definitely, we're always looking for it. It comes in under, we look to give that back and really look to keep that mill rate as smooth as we can to not have a huge increase if we can avoid that.
Okay, terrific. I'm mostly concerned about you having enough to be able to pay for that if that comes up, but it sounds like you do. And then as far as the capital projects go, the primarily paving and bridges, can you access federal dollars directly, or do you need to go through the state to do that? Because you're, your own municipality essentially.
There is bridge funding that we would access through Maine DOT.
Okay.
And what the counties would need to do is when they get to their bridge plan, and in particular, one bridge popped up this year, $750,000. There is no way on $1 million budget you want to load that all at once. So that's spread over 3 years, and that's why you see Washington County with like an over $200,000 increase. They're starting the plan for that.
Okay.
When they start doing that, they also submit a plan with Maine DOT to get into their 3-year plan. Because a lot of these bridges are what are called low use redundant bridges and are a 50-50 split between state and what the UT would need to support there. I am curious about what may be coming out of the infrastructure funding.
Yeah,
And how that can get directed. And I'm looking to try to get connected closer to that to find out how that can be used as a resource.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Now you can go back to it.
Any other questions?
I don't think we have any more right now. Yeah, if you want to continue, that'd be great.
Okay. Trends and comments, these are all they're across the board for everything that we're dealing with these days. But on page 4, I kind of start with some comments similar to last time. And again, this budget is basically flat. It's a little bit lower because we've had like a little bit of funding left from the year before to use. Comment on the coronavirus. In some ways, especially last year, we had no idea what the short-term impact would be, let alone long-term. This time around, we're getting some idea what the short-term is because the funding for the UT is primarily property taxes and people are paying them. There hasn't been a significant revenue risk, it appears, for the UT. But long-term, we really don't know what that would be. It still causes the budgeting process to be very conservative. Like I just mentioned, there are national, state, and local government funding or efforts being made to minimize the economic toll. And part of them is the American Rescue Plan Act, that funding. The UT did not specifically receive any of that funding. It went to the counties. And what I've been doing is just in the counties have been talking about how they're using that funding. You know, the federal guidance hasn't been terribly clear, but when we look at that, there's maybe a few areas that would apply to the unorganized territory. So we are working with looking at what can be done to access maybe some of those funds. Then the infrastructure and investments, that's still just beginning, and we're still getting connected to that. One area that's come out of both of those is broadband. And the governor, I did just release a comment that she's looking to have everyone connected by 2024. And I would hope that that would include the rural and the UT areas. I did see the operational or strategic plan for the newly created Maine Connectivity Authority. And they specifically talk about the last mile. And if there's a last mile, it's in the UT. So I'm looking to get connected with that too, to just understand more about how that can be handled. It's just such a large area. It's been impossible to try to think of what would that whole picture look like. And it's just great that these resources and the funding's in place now to maybe help with that. The next one, economic factors. Everyone's aware of this. Inflation, we're so, fortunate from 2015 to 2020, it averaged about 1.5. And then in 2021, it jumped up to 4.7 on average, which is like tripling the inflation rate. And just going into the beginning of this year, it's looking right now at 7.5. Hopefully that will drop, but it's still very significant. Along with that, fuel costs have increased year over year about 36%. And even starting the beginning of this year, it's already increased another 14, or this is probably an old number now, 20%. Electricity rates, a standard offer was recently increased by 80%, with residential customers experience roughly a $30 a month increase. It's, we've yet to see how that's going to play out. And I talked earlier about workforce shortages, and wage expectations are impacting how we can supply these services. Supply chain disruptions have caused significant increases in material costs and delivery backlog. One area for the UT, and again, it's mostly dirt roads, not paved, but paving costs have really increased significantly, and that can really move these budgets around. There are a couple state agency comments I would wanted to make, and that is for the largest state agency supporting the UT, and that's the education in the UT. They do in their capital plan to replace school buses and have, you know, a very thoughtful plan. As they age, you replace them. And there's maybe 2 or 3 buses a year that get replaced. There's been encouragement and direction to consider going green. And the department has done a lot of work to see what can be done with that. The initial review is that really in these areas, the infrastructure just isn't there to handle any kind of charging of electronic buses. And also the temperatures and whether these electronic buses really can function in these areas. So their plan right now is to continue replacing the diesel, and they have this year brought in a couple of propane to just see how that works, and then we'll modify their plan. The bigger piece for education I wanted to mention is the 3 EUT schools are very old structures, and in review that looks like there's some significant repair and renovations that may need to occur. And right now the EUT has some evaluations happening, engineers coming in to look at the 3 schools and sort out what needs to happen and what the estimates would be. And right now that's still a very beginning process. The other agency I would comment on is Maine Revenue Service that supports the UT. They are implementing currently a new assessment system for the property tax process. And they're planning to have that implemented by the end of the year and hopefully going parallel the end of this year into next year with the property tax assessment system. Their budget in total is flat. It does include an item this year. And what they're finding is these remote areas are just so extremely remote and just increasingly difficult to access, that they have in this budget plans to purchase a utility terrain vehicle. And what they're finding is, and they do have to see and go and look at all the properties, and they're running into roads that are heavily overgrown and just very difficult to get into. So they do have a plan for that in this budget. This other section on county services, we've pretty much talked about all of them. It's just a look, it's more of a trends kind of look. It shows the percentage increase for the current year and then a 5-year average. And the 3 that are kind of out of ordinary compared to the 5-year average are the roads and bridges that we talked about, solid waste that we've talked about, and then again, the excise tax revenue, which is really just an adjustment coming back to the probably the regular or average increase. County taxes, I did mention this last year, and I'm going to mention it again because in more of the conversations about the county taxes, one of the primary elements that towns and the UT are funding of the county budgets are the jail systems and public safety. And as far as the jail system, there used to be a board of corrections, and it was disbanded in 2015. It kind of took an overall look at the state. And once that disbanded, it basically went back to the counties, and they've had to kind of take on the full review of that. And what they're finding is some of these facilities, like I guess everything else, like our roads, are needing repair and renovation, and just concerned about how the funding is going to support that. And is that going to mean through totally property tax funding or through the state portion of funding that does occur for the jail system? Some of the current concerns there have influenced that an LD is in process currently, 1654, that is looking to stabilize the state funding of county jails and to standardize reporting, and also to possibly consider establishing a review council. And that public hearing is this Friday with criminal justice and public safety. And the other comment here is on public safety. I mentioned it earlier. There is a balancing of services that are occurring between county sheriff, deputy support, and then the county police support that happens when calls occur. And there have been a couple of articles in the Bangor Daily about that also. The last section here is deorganization. I mentioned the Galloway plantation. A lot of times when these deorganizations happen, it takes about 2 or 3 years to get it kind of leveled out and the services in the right spot. But the county has done a really good job of getting this first year under their belt and probably have a little fine tuning next year, but I think they'll be all set there. And I just last week received a call from Drew Plantation in Penobscot County, and they are considering the process. And what we will do as the Commission on Deor will send our reps to their public hearing to just share information on what it may look like or not, and then listen to, what their concerns about continuing as a municipality. And I think that concludes my testimony on LD 1987. I'd like to say thank you to Representative Terry for sponsoring, and to Julie and Lena for helping with the virtual process and getting the information out to you. So if you have any other questions or.
Thank you for that. Questions from members of the committee?
Or any insights to these trends?
I'm glad to see there's only one municipality that's considering it at this point, so that's good.
Yes, I just, it's hard to know with the influx of population, but there are still these extremely remote areas that aren't attracting this influx of people. Washington County, because it's on the coast, they've gotten kind of a number of people moving in and are adapting to that.
Yeah.
Seeing no hands up, I guess we don't have any questions from members of the committee, but look forward to working with you on this at the work session, which I believe we have scheduled already for next week, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're scheduled for the 10th, so it'll be Thursday, March 10th at 10 o'clock. It'll be the work session on this bill as well as the previous bill that we heard this morning.
Right. That's perfect
excellent.
for me.
We had it listed as 9 o'clock for Thursday meeting.
I'm sorry.
You want to start at 10?
No, I'm sorry, 9 o'clock. I didn't,
Okay.
I misread that. Yeah, 9 o'clock Thursday, March 10th is what we're scheduled for a work session on this bill and actually 4 other bills as well. So, I guess we're all set with that. We don't have anybody else scheduled to speak on this bill. So we will close the public hearing on LD 1987.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
And we don't have anything else scheduled for today. I don't know if you have anything for us, Julie, any amendments you want to discuss with us or anything else we should know about?
I only wanted to mention that on the chart that I sent you out with regard to the budget materials that you're going to be hearing jointly with appropriations tomorrow, I did list on that chart 2 items which are actually not referred to the taxation committee, but I listed them because I thought they would be of interest to you. One of them relates to FAME housing, and the other one relates to the home fund, the amount of money being available to the home fund increasing simply because the revenue forecast went up. So it's appropriating more money for them. And the FAME item is an appropriation to FAME to permit them to advertise what will become, I guess, the new educational opportunity credit, the revision that the governor is proposing in the budget. The revision to the credit, the educational opportunity credit, is under the taxation committee jurisdiction, but the appropriation for advertising is under labor and housing committee. So I just wanted to mention that when you go for the public hearing tomorrow. Those 2 items are in your chart, but they will not be heard tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that.
Oh,
Julie.
the other thing is were you meaning to take up LD 80 today?
No, we
Okay.
we don't want to do that today. I don't think we
Okay.
we may do that probably next week on Thursday, the 10th, I think, but that's just for a brief discussion and possibly a reconsideration. So anything else for us, Julie, or is that it?
No, that's it for me.
Okay.
Can I make
Go
a
ahead.
request,
Go ahead,
Julie?
Rep.
Sorry, Senator Chipman. Julie, for the work session for LD 1986, could we invite MRS to come in and tell us about their thoughts on it as well as what the fiscal impact is going to be and how we can make it so it's great and helpful for everybody.
I will definitely do that. It also occurred to me that it might be a good idea to invite someone from the Veterans Affairs Department to be able to talk about the disability
Yeah, that'd be great.
provisions, because I think there is some confusion about the way that works. And I know they have come in the past on this type of bill to provide their expertise in terms of knowing what programs are available to veterans and how they operate.
Excellent. That would be awesome. Thank you.
All right, anything else, Representative Terry? We're all set. So we're scheduled to meet tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It's a joint meeting together with the Committee on Appropriations. Talk about tax issues in the supplemental budget. So that'll be a combined meeting that we should all have a Zoom link to already, or we'll be getting some time today to attend. It's on Zoom only, so it's not in person for anybody that might be thinking about coming to the State House. I think it's only by Zoom.
Mhm.
And I actually won't be able to be there because I'll be traveling. So unfortunately, I won't be able to be there with you tomorrow. But 1 o'clock tomorrow is when that's scheduled for. And other than that, we aren't meeting on Thursdays. So we'll be meeting again next week.
I think our next meeting for this committee will not be until the 10th after tomorrow. We are not meeting on the 8th, and we'll be in the State House on the 9th. So the 10th will be the next one with a bunch of work sessions that day.
Yeah, so we're starting to wind down our work here. So great. Well, I guess that's pretty much everything for today. So with that, we'll adjourn the committee meeting for today and see everybody soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day.